What is up, guys? Welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today we are working the back using different exercises, some recognizable but some are different indeed because we're training in a different gym right now. You may have seen the partner that I'm training with today. His name is also Wesley. You may have seen him before on a shoulder video which has quite a lot of views, which was again in a different gym with pretty epic lighting. But this gym is in Belgium. I live in the Netherlands myself, so it's about an hour's drive, but very much worth it because every gym that I have visited here is very amazing indeed. Very comparable to the gym that I go to myself, pretty spacious, a lot of hammer strength exercises, and this first exercise, the Lat Pulldown, as you saw, the machine itself moves with your own movement, and if you're not used to such a machine, it really does feel different. So the moment that you pull the weight down, you pull yourself up. So you're not only pulling the weight, but also your own weight at the same time. And this makes it a really unique feel, and it allows me to actually contract the back even further than usual. So if you compare this to a regular lat pull down, you would stop with your arms about 90 degrees, but if you look closely, my arms go a little deeper and lower than 90 degrees, allowing my scapula to contract even more, allowing all those back muscles to fill up with even more blood. It does, however, make it a little bit more challenging to perform the exercise, but at the same time, I love to take a challenge and I love trying out different exercises like this because obviously it is designed to biomechanically work to your advantage and to, work all the back muscles that you want to work. So it is a very unique exercise, and the first one we're doing because I like to start with a back width exercise before jumping to all the back thickness exercises, because I will be focusing on back thickness mostly because my back thickness is a weakness and the back width is pretty much there, so I want to get that out of the way with one or two exercises and then focus fully on the back thickness. And this is a combination of a back thickness and a back width exercise, the narrow grip lat pull down, and honestly I haven't done this variation in a very long time. Usually your arms are much further apart grabbing that bar, at least wider than shoulder width, but the reasoning that I'm using this grip, pulling it narrower together, your hands, it actually allows you to use different back muscles and actually makes you stronger than you think. It may look like an awkward position, an awkward motion, but as Dorian Yates said, with an enormous back that he had, the closer your arms and your hands are to your body, the stronger you are. So if you grab this lat pull down, this bar very wide, you are actually weaker and you are less able to contract and recruit all those muscle fibers that you want to. So using variations in grip does allow you to hit different parts of the muscle. That is what bodybuilding is all about. And then next up, the seated row. And I love this seated row because it allows me to stretch out the back nice and far. And that is how Arnold used to do it. That is how Ronnie Coleman used to do it. Both had pretty amazing backs, especially Ronnie Coleman had an amazing back, but Arnold at the same time had very low lat insertions. Of course, that is mostly genetics that causes the insertions of your muscles, but do not give up. That is what I want to tell to a lot of people. You have a lot more potential than you think. So if you give up right from the get-go, you will never know if you will actually create an illusion to make your lats look lower. And the only way to do that is to consistently do exercises that target that very part of the muscle, and using a stretch in this movement targets that very part. It stretches out the lats to the max, it pulls exactly on that insertion, and the harder the pull, the more your body will respond to muscle growth. The more breakdown, the more you will be able to build back up. And as you see me wearing right here, I'm wearing a belt to protect the lower back, because this exercise, doing it in this fashion, does require a very strong lower back. First of all, a very strong sense of your form, keeping your back arched or at least straight, but also you gotta be cautious of your lower back. Once you injure the lower back, it'll be a weak point for a very long time. I've had an injury in my lower back in the past, so I try to prevent it whenever I go very heavy on these exercises, because it is a sensitive spot, the lower back, especially the insertion of the spine into the, how do you call it, the pelvis. I had an injury there because I squatted too heavy, went down too fast, and it actually strained my lower back, and this was years ago. But sometimes if I go way too heavy, don't use a belt, and have a little sloppy form, which usually happens when you go very heavy, then I feel it a little bit. So wearing a belt definitely does help protect that area by allowing the muscles to contract even stronger and protecting the actual tendons. And as you can see, this gym isn't only pretty spacious, but also very serious. Of course, this gym is pretty new in terms of the machinery that it's in here, and it will be filled up even more. The gym is called Action Point, by the way, and I will be here March 4th. So for anyone living in the Netherlands, anyone living in Belgium, if you have time, if you would like, then meet me at this gym March 4th. We will be here with a lot other athletes from Nutritech, the supplement line that I partnered with and sell at supplements.vintagegenetics.com. I will also be here with my clothing, especially what I'm wearing right now, and a lot of other clothing that is available on the website, as well as discounts on the clothing and the supplements. But anyway, back to the workout. This exercise is the lower back row. This is an amazing exercise to really target the lower back, because you are using two different handles that move on their own, which allows you to actually pull it back further, because your stomach isn't in the way, so you can pull your hands beside your body, and this allows you to contract the lower back to the max, really carve that Christmas tree into the lower back. And this exercise is actually pretty heavy if you do it correctly. If you really contract the lower back as hard as you can, it will become a very difficult exercise, and then you realize that your back isn't as strong as you thought if you don't use momentum at all. And the lower back / back thickness is my weak point, so doing exercises like this and a lot of different rowing exercises really does help bring in those details and back thickness that I really need to show on stage. So for people who have lacking back details, lacking back thickness, I would advise you to do around the same as me. Do only one back width exercise if your back width is okay, but the rest should be rowing. And if you use full range of motion like I'm doing right here, I'm also stretching the lats, contracting the lower back, then you will not only work on the back thickness but also automatically on the back width, and that is very important. That is why I always use a full range of motion, so no part of the muscle is being neglected. That is what happens if you train for 10 years and you have good form for year after year, consistency as bodybuilding needs to be, then you create muscle quality, which automatically shows, which eventually shows on stage, in pictures, in a mirror, and you will be very happy with the results indeed. And I do think it is important to at least do one unilateral movement for any muscle group that you're doing. So what I mean with that is that you focus on one side of the muscle. So for the back, you first focus on the right or left side and then on the other side. You always should start with your weaker side, because if you do, then you will never actually let your stronger side keep overpowering the weaker side. So for example, if your left side is weaker than your right side, you would only be able to do 10 reps with the max weight, but with the right side you would be able to do 12 reps. So if you would start with the strong one, you would do 12 reps and then try to replicate those amount of reps with the left weaker side, you wouldn't be able to do it. But if you first do 10 reps with the weak side and then match the reps with the strong side and then stop, you will actually slowly progress towards having a proportionate back or chest or arms, whatever it may be, because you actually stop working the stronger version of your body compared to the weaker one when the weaker one gives up, and that way the balance will be shifted towards 50-50 on each side. And that is what we want in bodybuilding: proportion, balance, and symmetry. And this last back exercise is one of my favorites. You usually do it with a dumbbell, but also possible with a cable and a straight bar like this, the pullover, which is an amazing exercise to stretch out that very pumped up back and to really stretch out those fibers which are really intertwined, and the more they are intertwined and pumped, the better the stretch will be and the better the response to growth will be as well. And then another exercise that actually a machine that moves with your own movement, and this one is really amazing. I have to say that compared to a regular bicep curl machine, this one really enhances the bicep peak for sure. I can feel this amazingly in the bicep peak at the contraction. Sometimes with most machine curls you actually have to focus on contracting at the very top, otherwise you will not get that full contraction. But in this case the contraction comes automatically and it becomes actually quite a heavy exercise. I didn't know how heavy to go with this one, so I went with a 10 kilo plate on each side, but that is actually very heavy already. Remember, the biceps or even the triceps, the side delts, the rear delts, they are all small muscles. So if you think you can go very heavy with them, trust me, you're using different muscles to aid that small muscle. Because if the biceps are already failing right here, you're only adding 5 kilograms at each side, you kind of know that they aren't that very strong. And the only way to get them to fail at a low weight is to go to a full range of motion, be honest with yourself, and don't use momentum. Because using momentum will only cause you to be able to use more weight without actually putting more stress on the muscle itself and only putting yourself at risk for injury, which is the nightmare of a bodybuilder. So don't use heavy weights when you don't need to. Only use them if you can, for example on a bench press, a deadlift, a squat, if you have a spotter and you feel strong. But don't use heavy weights on smaller muscle groups like the biceps, the triceps, the side delts, etc. Because they simply aren't strong, and the only way to develop those smaller muscle groups, in my opinion, is to use a lighter weight, get a full range of motion, contract those muscles as hard as possible, and get an amazing pump. Of course, heavy weights do play a role even in these smaller muscle groups, but only use them sparingly. For example, doing a straight barbell curl, you can go quite heavy with it, but first of all, you use both arms at the same time. You always use a little bit of momentum with your body, with your stance. Use a little bit of front delts, and all of those factors working together allows you to go to a heavier weight. And that is what Arnold used to call cheat curls. They do have a place in bodybuilding to overstress the muscle at certain points in the range of motion, but only do them if you know what you're doing and you already have quite developed muscles indeed, because to develop them properly you only need to go, as I said, through the range of motion and use good form with proper weights. And this is the last exercise of the day, one of my favorites at the same time, the standing cable curl. You can at the same time practice your back double biceps, aka or the front double biceps, both pretty much the same if you're standing in this position, depending on where you feel. But this was the video. The next video will be about my DEXA scan, and I will be doing a new DEXA scan pretty soon, and then I'll make another video comparing my current DEXA results with the next one. So keep on the lookout for that. And also on my Instagram at Wesley Vissers, I posted a little story about my nutrition, and people were very interested in seeing how I make my meals. So first of all, if you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure to do so if you are interested in my life, in my cooking, in my meals. I post them on my story pretty often, and a lot of people seem to be interested in how I make those meals very tasty, even in my competition prep. So those videos are coming as well. I want to thank you for your support. Come see me March 4th if you are in the neighborhood at this gym in Action Point. And guys, don't forget to stay golden.